Well, we're back with another episode of the Randy Wilson Podcast. I'm your host, Randy Wilson, and we've been gone for about a month now. Is that right, Casey? It's about 30 days at least here. We took a little bit of a break to kind of see what was going to happen through the elections, both local and state and national elections, and we thought it'd be good to take a break a little bit because then it may spiral off some of the things we want to talk about, you know. And through that 30 days, for me, I've been able to kind of do a lot of self-reflection, both personally, professionally, and thinking about the pod in regard to like what direction I want to go forward. And I really feel I'm optimistic and excited about the next direction of where we see the pod going. Because we will be bringing a co-host onto the podcast that we're really excited about. And so stay tuned for that. I'm not going to talk too much about it, but we will be having a special co-host that'll be stapled in as a part of the show. And you'll see some changes with how we do the show. We'll still do interviews. We'll just be, there'll be two of us. And it'll be a very balanced act. I will tell you that my co-host is a licensed professional counselor, and so she definitely brings a good conversation to the table. So we're really excited about her. This is the Randy Wilson Podcast. You can find this podcast everywhere podcasts are played. But I'm going to encourage you to go over to YouTube because then you'll be able to see the gentleman that I have with us today. I've been seeing him everywhere, quite frankly, on LinkedIn and just other podcasts, and the name I've just been hearing a lot about him. His name's Will Melton. I'm really excited to get to this conversation with him today. And if you're not on YouTube and you're listening to this podcast, Stitcher, Libsyn, Google, Apple, Spotify, and also the RandyWilsonPodcast.com. You know, we don't promote our own platforms enough, so you can go over there and check it out there. But I'm going to say go to YouTube so you can see the gentleman today, because then you can become familiar with him just like I have been able to. Will Melton. Will, thank you for being on the show today.
Randy, thank you. I appreciate it.
Definitely happy to have you. I'm excited to have you. I've been seeing you everywhere. And we had a brief conversation about a week back and got a little bit more familiar with Will. And I thought that for my audience, it was kind of just the same thing. Another space to introduce a young man out here that is doing exciting things. And so, yeah, I'm really interested just to sit down and chop it up with you. And we're going to obviously talk about Richmond Water, which you guys can see on the camera. We're going to talk about Xponent. We're going to talk about housing. We're going to talk about a lot of things. We're actually going to go over and visit one of the water stations today. So you'll probably see that as well. If you're listening, you can go check it out on Instagram because we'll post that as well. But Will, I think the best place for me to start, because of the timing, first interview post election, particularly here in the city of Richmond. I'm just kind of curious on your current, I think this is a common question of everybody right now. How are you feeling? How are you feeling right now that the decisions have been made in regard to who's going to be leading our city, leading our country? How do you feel right now in regard to where we are?
I'll be honest with you. I think a switch flipped in my brain the day after Election Day, and I opened up the news and I realized that every day that I open up the news, it's going to be about politics. Mm-hmm. And we're not going to be able to escape that. I think the 6 months leading up to the election, we just had news. And I would say maybe a little anxious, and I didn't know it. But after the election, I said to myself, well, we're done. It's time to move on. Let's go make some money. Let's go get some things done. Let's go fix our problems. Let's listen to what's happening in the world, make sure we're paying attention and holding people accountable. But, that's really on the national level. I think on the local level, I'm encouraged. I'm very encouraged. I think that the folks that we as a city elected are prepared to lead, and I think that we're going to see some bright things happen. One big thing I'm really excited about is having a new school board. I don't have any kids, but if you pay any attention to the news, we lack leadership at the school board here in Richmond, and it caused total chaos. So I'm looking forward to seeing how our young people are going to see improvements in their education so that we can really, improve Richmond's future, because it's not going to be us who have the biggest impact. It's going to be them.
Yeah, for sure. I think it was very coincidental during the, I saw you in a lot of places, but it was coincidental when we was interviewing Andreas Addison, because he had the water bottle here, Richmond Water, which you're the creator, curator behind, and great branding, by the way. Shout out to Hamilton Glass, whose art here is displayed on the bottle. If you guys are not familiar with Richmond Water, get familiar. Look at this cool bottle. The waters, you can refill the bottle with water. I think there's 5 refillable stations around the city.
I've got 4 right now, but we're gonna add to that,
and we're gonna talk about that. But we shout out Andreas Addison, because he kind of put that kind of planted something with me and say, hey, we need to learn more about this water. Talk to me a little bit about your relationship with Andreas. He is our current city council representative for the 1st District. He was a candidate for mayor. He didn't win. Talk to us a little bit about your relationship with him, though. I'm curious to see what comes with his future as well, which appears to be very bright.
Yeah. Well, I met him somewhere along the way over the last couple of years. I honestly couldn't remember, but he has been somebody who, as a leader in Richmond, I saw his name in the news a lot. I knew he was a city council person. The media relies on his quotes a lot to kind of understand what's happening in government. And he's an incredibly knowledgeable and articulate individual as it relates to policy in the city and municipal, policy in general. And so I was, getting to know him a little bit better. I would see him at Kickers games, and I had kind of fallen out of my fitness routine. And so being a little bit familiar with him, I knew that I would have a good experience going into his gym. So last December, I want to say, I joined the gym. And just yesterday, he trained me along with some other folks in the class. So I've seen a lot of his drive just as a person, and I've been able to benefit from it. I was thinking yesterday morning, I was like, I'm not going to go to the gym today. I don't feel like going to the gym. And then I said, you know what? This is the reason why you need to go to the gym. And that's why I went, and I'm glad I did, because I felt great yesterday. But I don't know what he's going to do going forward. I think from what I understand, a lot of people are reaching out to him and saying, before you make any decisions, let's talk. I think he does have a bright future, and I know from the bottom of my heart that Richmond is central to his brain and his heart. So whatever he does, it's going to involve this community, no doubt.
Little background, in case are we good with the mics? Give us a little bit of background on you, because you're not originally a Richmonder, if I'm correct.
No,
right?
I was born in Lansing, Michigan, moved to New Jersey, eventually made my way to North Carolina at a very young age.
What part of North Carolina?
Rockwell, Salisbury area, about an hour north of Charlotte on 85.
Catawba, Livingstone College, very familiar.
Yeah. And I was pretty young. I was 12 when we moved back to Michigan. My father passed away, and my mother took us back to where her family was for that support. And she ended up meeting a gentleman who was a William & Mary graduate who was living in Williamsburg, Virginia. And a couple years later, we moved down there. So in the middle of 9th grade, I kind of started my life here in Virginia, and was there, graduated high school, came up to VCU for a semester. I am not a student in the traditional sense. I'm a student of life, but I don't do well sitting in a classroom and absorbing facts. So I really have to get my hands dirty and experience things and figure out what I don't know and learn that way. So I left after a semester, and a little bit later I got into a computer repair business, worked to grow that from a little 500 square foot store in Williamsburg to 3 sizable locations in Williamsburg, Yorktown, and Chesapeake. But through that, I learned a lot about marketing and marketing small business, and I already had a lot of experience with that in high school, but I ended up deciding that I wanted to start a marketing consultancy, and digital was really starting to get a foothold, and I was learning how to use that. We had grown our business by a significant margin in 2009, and it just kind of, it pulled me, it pulled me in, and I haven't stopped doing that. I've had a couple of agencies since then, but Xponent21 is my bread and butter, as people would say, and it pays my bills and keeps me going. has the house for my team of strategists, designers, and developers that make all the things that I do possible. But yeah, I think that I'm a marketer through and through. That's what I do. But marketing is about storytelling, and storytelling in the business world is about, it's about, success. It's about profit and loss. It's about, supply and demand, and how do you frame those stories in a way that consumers and buyers are going to be interested. So there is a big canvas that I get to play in with that.
Xponent wasn't your first marketing company then?
No.
So Xponent's been around how many years?
So we started that in 2015.
Okay.
I had moved to Connecticut. My wife, my now wife, Courtney, she was in a program at William & Mary, a graduate program. She finished there. I was kind of looking around for what to do next, and ended up in a graduate program at Yale. And being somebody with 6 months of college under my belt, and being in a relationship with somebody who had a master's degree and was going to pursue another master's degree at Yale, I think I was smart to follow her. So I went up there and spent a couple of years. We learned that the folks up in Connecticut are not the warmest people in the world.
Yeah.
Good people, but not a lot of the pleasantries that we enjoy down here, and the hospitality piece that we care so much about. So when she finished there, we moved to Richmond, and didn't talk much about it. I think we had kind of known that this place was special to us. We went on our first date here in Richmond, walked the Canal Walk, had brunch at Franklin Inn. And so we have, this has always been special to us. So when we had the opportunity, we just moved here and made it our home. But we started Xponent21 in part because we moved up to Connecticut, and it didn't make sense for me to be in a partnership in a business that was located in Williamsburg. It just didn't make sense.
Just want to make sure. So the marketing businesses that you had prior to 2015, there were marketing businesses, correct?
Yes.
Those were probably the ingredients of success and failures that resulted in you crafting Xponent21?
Did a lot of work, didn't make any money, learned a lot of things.
So what did you get right? What did you figure out, and what did you get right when, what made you know that Xponent was going to be, or did you know?
Oh, I knew.
Okay.
Yeah, and I wrote this quote this morning that I think is really perfect for this question. Winners choose an abundance mindset. I think people who are successful in business, they go into it knowing that there are factors that are outside their control, but as long as they control the factors that are within their control, they can see success. There's no shortage of opportunity out there. There's a lot to how you get to the place, but from a choice perspective, you've got to choose to say that this is going to work and we're going to be successful, because it's disastrous if you think any other way. So I knew I would be successful. The point for me was we had developed a lot of client relationships. We'd built some websites. We'd done a lot of digital marketing, and we had success with it. But it wasn't as successful as it could have been. I had a client one day who was paying me to optimize their website to show up high in search results. They were a fast-growing medical practice that was acquiring new offices, and they had acquired an office in Newport News, and they said, we want to be number one in Newport News. And nobody in this world can make those promises, but I had already been responsible for making the current healthcare practice, who is their key competitor, in the number one spot on Google,
Let me just say this: Newport News is tough, because I'm in the mental health world, and Newport, of all the markets that I'm in, Newport News is probably one of the most. The need is there, clearly, but when you think about the 7 cities, from a staffing standpoint, Newport News is probably the most challenging one to hire from. I don't know if you're familiar with that or not, but from my experiences,
Newport News has got a lot of challenges, I would say.
Yeah.
But for me, it was not unusual to do the work in any market. And I'd already gotten their competitor into that number one spot. They were no longer a client of mine, and they had, bought into that practice, into that market. So, for a period of time, I did everything I could to get them in the position, and we would kind of get close, but then they would drop down, and we worked it so many different ways and couldn't get it. And I hired other people who knew better than I did to maybe advise me and tell me what I got wrong. They couldn't figure it out. Eventually, we ended up replacing the website because it was the only thing left to do to get this right. And that still didn't get them where they wanted to be, and they fired me. And the thing that was the silver lining in all of that was in the months between launching their website and them firing me, I saw their conversion rates go through the roof in every other market that they had traffic coming in. And even for the traffic they had coming in from that market, the people that came to the website that said yes, it compounded greatly. And so that was a moment that I said, the magic is in the website. We really need to focus on the user experience for people who come into these sites. Only once we've got that part right can we really start thinking about how do we run great ads and how do we bring people into this space, because otherwise you're spending money to bring people to a place that isn't clean, that's confusing, that doesn't feel good, that makes people question whether or not you're going to be able to deliver on your promises. And that's asinine. It doesn't make sense. So, I'm a student, like I said, of life, and I didn't have that formal education around, what is marketing. And honestly, back when I was doing digital, schools weren't teaching it. So I had to learn a lot on my own. But I think that, after having done this for as long as I have, the big picture is that you've got to do the right thing in every domain. Your website's got to be right. Your campaigns that you run have to be on point. You've got to do the work to figure out how that message and how that go-to-market strategy is going to resonate with people who are going to give you money.
Yeah. If you're listening, and obviously you guys are, okay, but I want you to think, and we don't have enough time today to get too deep into this. But there's folks who are listening right now that are, you have websites, you have social media platforms, and you want to be Googleable. you want to be Googleable. But more importantly, the challenges you may deal with is that you're not converting people over to your website, to your social media, because you may not be meeting ADA you may not have the ADA compliance requirements, or there's just things there. And I want you to go check out Xponent on the internet and learn more about Will, because he seems to be the type of guy that can help you with those conversions. He knows a lot more about it than I do, but I work a little bit in the development and marketing space, and I know some of the challenges that we have in the mental health field is when you're looking for counseling near me is part of the problems that websites often do not have the keywords that are going to be at the top of the algorithm to populate when people are looking for counselors near you, because you don't meet the requirements. A lot of people who are looking for these medical or counseling services may have disabilities anyway. And so there's just certain things that your website, certain widgets, if I'm speaking correctly, you're the expert, but I think there's folks on here, I know I got listeners, particularly creatives, that are trying to get more people to listen to their music. They're trying to get more people to look at their art. They're trying, but their challenge is like, it's not popping up. Now, my question for you is, what is your ideal client? Because I don't want somebody to listen to this show and think that, hey, I'm going to go check this guy out, and they may realistically not be your ideal client. They may be too small, or just not where they need it. Maybe you have some advice for them.
Yeah, I mean, probably the easiest way to say it is probably an annual revenue figure. Generally, 5 million or more a year is going to be what we would look to pair with. But we've worked with businesses that are smaller than that. We'll deliver projects sometimes that offer a tremendous amount of value that we can make money off of. That can be, a segue to a relationship that's more long term with folks. But I think the thing that we bring to the table is this really deep knowledge of how digital works and the way that the algorithms are designed and how they change and really how they're motivated, so that we can do that comprehensive approach to digital and get those results. I think a lot of people think that they can, half-ass it, or they can DIY it, or they can do one piece and be successful. And you've heard marketing people, your frequency is everything. You gotta be frequent. And, but you could be frequent for a couple of weeks in one platform and be discouraged because you didn't get the traction that you wanted. Little did you know, it takes 47 times of posting for that traction to get there and for people to actually latch onto it. And maybe 47 is not the perfect number, but we know that some of it's about developing habit and some of it's about being consistent. And, but more than anything, one platform isn't going to be everything. If anything, your website's probably the one platform, but how do you get people there? You've got to have all these other assets out there in the world to bring them in. So I don't know if that answers the question.
Yeah, it does. Do you agree with meeting people where they are?
Oh, absolutely.
Is it fair to say that multiple platforms can hold value in their own unique way.
Yeah. Well, and meeting people where they are is twofold. One is where are they physically in space, but where are they in their minds? You know, what do they know? What don't they know? What help do they need to bridge that gap? They've got a problem. They came to your website for a reason. They're coming and kicking around for a reason. They're not wasting time looking at websites because they're interested in what they look like. They need something. So, you know, I think a lot of people fail to meet the visitors to their website where they are. And I could work with anybody on that. It doesn't matter what your budget is, because it's a matter of understanding the needs of visitors and you know, crafting content that's designed to answer their questions and guide them in a direction that makes people feel safe and comfortable. And that is a precursor to any relationship, especially with a stranger.
Yeah, cool. So we can transfer here a little bit. Well, before I do though, please plug the website Xponent so that our listeners can know what they can learn more about that.
Xponent21.com, Xponent21.com. Folks occasionally will ask me what that means. We believe that exponential growth through 21st century marketing solutions is not only possible, but it's predictable. And that's been the belief system that we formed from day one.
Now, staying in that world a little bit, tell me what fascinates you about AI, because in checking out some of the stuff that you shared with me, you kind of caught the bug with AI fairly early. Just talk to me a little bit about what fascinates you with AI. How are you utilizing AI? How are you utilizing AI to help the people that you work with as well? What do you see as the future of AI? And I know that's a lot there.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I could say the start for me in AI was content writing. You know, we write a ton of content. We have to write a ton of content to build websites, to optimize websites, to deliver good experiences for visitors. And the cost to develop the volume of content that's required to win today is immense if you're paying people to do it. So AI, you know, really early on was a way for us to accelerate the pace that we could write at. Still using human editors to make sure that the content is sound and authentic and valuable to the readers. But that was one of the number one things that we used it for, and that was before ChatGPT was really a big thing. When ChatGPT came out as an app, I started using it every day. And it so happened to coincide with the launch of Richmond Water, or at least our development of the project. So I was using ChatGPT daily to do things like come up with captions for our social posts, or thinking about go-to-market strategies, or how to set minimum order quantities. I didn't even know what an MOQ was when somebody asked me about it for the first time, but ChatGPT told me. So, you know, I think having, you know, been in this world now for a couple of years and having both used a number of different AI tools, but also, you know, just across all sectors of creation, from, you know, image and video creation, audio creation. I mean, I just cloned my voice the other day and did a readout of one of my written blog posts. I was shocked. I was absolutely shocked at how good it sounded, how much like me it sounded. And if anything, it sounded better than me, because what reading text is, you have to be practiced at that.
Did you send me that?
I don't think I did. I think I need to send it to you.
Okay.
The one that you have is one that I actually read out, and it was not as good.
Okay.
But in any event, you know, I've written software with AI. There's not really much that I haven't done that it can do. And what I've learned in retrospect is that 2 years ago, I would have told you that there was something wrong with my brain, that I was too ADD and I couldn't focus and I couldn't really get the things done that I wanted to get done or needed to get done. I have been good at learning how to delegate and leverage my team to get things done, but I didn't feel like I was able. And you know, when you know you have ADD, you know that's a deficiency. It's, you know, the deficiency's in the word. And so I just thought that it was something I was going to struggle with. Well, turns out AI has been the biggest gift for me, because ADD is, the best I could describe it is, it's like having a million thoughts running through your brain, and you really can't grab a hold of all of them all at once. But for me, I can, you know, for a brief moment, latch onto any one of them, think about it for a minute, and let it go, and come to something else. So this compartmentalization that I'm able to do. AI allows me to explore all these ideas at a much more rapid pace and get to a point where I'm satisfied thinking about that thing so that I can move on and fully let it go. Or find the curiosity, the spark that's like, hey, you want to do more of this, keep going. And sometimes, I mean, this weekend I built some WordPress plugins with AI, and I spent almost all weekend on it because I was so excited by what I was able to do. I think that I'm fascinated with it now because it's going to change our society in some very dramatic ways, and it's going to have some consequences, but it's also going to have a lot of silver linings to it too.
Question is, one of the consequences, I don't think anything can make us, like, it's the whole cause and effect. When I say this, I'm not saying that AI is making us dumb. I don't mean to imply that it's making us dumb, but it doesn't require us to think all the way through. Would you agree or disagree? Because I use AI for a lot of things. I just kind of put out there the idea. I give it and then I'll let it do what it do, and then I'll play with it from there. But like, do you think that AI is, let's maybe just saying, does it enable us to be lazy?
No, I don't think so.
You don't think so?
No, I think it's the opposite. And I'll tell you why. So I think there's some things that we may waste our time trying to understand. There's value in...
It's funny though you're saying that, because you wasn't the student, like how you describe yourself as the student, you wasn't, like, in comparison to your wife, like you learned through the experiences of life. I'm kind of similar in that way. But I wonder if a student would perceive it that way. On your take?
Well, I mean, I think young people are inherently looking for the pleasures of life. They're looking for comfort. They're looking for the easy way. They haven't figured out. Yeah, they haven't figured out yet that the reward comes from doing the hard things. And I don't have any advice for those folks, because at some point you kind of have to live it and learn. And look, when you're young and in your 20s and in your teens, that's a great time to learn. And if you want to use AI to cut corners and be lazy, you'll pay the price for that later in life, because you won't develop the work ethic that you need to be a competitive individual in the marketplace. So, but I think that for the people who recognize the utility of AI, and this is going to be, if this isn't every worker today, you're in trouble. If you're not thinking about how AI is going to augment your value creation as an employee or as a business owner or whatever you're doing in the world, as a nonprofit leader even, you're going to be out of a job, because somebody who does know how to use AI is going to come in and do it better. And I'll tell you what, for instance, like I was developing some software this weekend. I have hesitated to ever go down that road because I know it's complicated and I haven't wanted to spend the time learning it. I've got developers that work for me. I don't need to learn it. I know how to write some code. I'm familiar with it, but the structure, the many files that are required to make one thing work, it was above my head, and I just didn't want to go there. But in the process of using AI to write some software this weekend, you kind of start with like Legos. You start with one block, and then you add a little bit to it, and a little bit to it, and a little bit to it. But it's all prompting. So you say, I want the software to do this. I want the software to do that. Or I need to package this software so that it's deployable on a website. And then it literally starts making the changes and starts writing the code, and you can see what it's doing. When you deploy it and it doesn't work the way you hope, you come back and say, okay, well, prompt it to do this. Let's make it do that. And so, while I have some foundational knowledge about code and development that enables me to get to this point, in the process of developing these different tools, I was able to learn what the structure of the folders need to be to make it work, what the different requirements are in the different files to make it work, how you can kind of chunk things out to make it cleaner and easier to manage. So, the gap that I've always had in leading a development team is not knowing what they know and not being able to direct them 100% of the time on what they could do in challenging situations. And that's always been a limiter for me. That limitation no longer exists. I know so much more about developing code. We're going to leapfrog what our abilities are and what we can sell and what we can deliver to clients that creates real tangible value in their business, 10x what we're doing today, easily.
Yeah, we're as I transition, guys, I'm all about trying to create the moments. Okay, so just want to make sure that that's understood, because I'll pivot sometime. I'm probably ADD as well. I'm probably ADHD, not diagnosed, but I'm one of those people also that believe labels conceal more than they reveal. Being a person that works in mental health, like, half the people in mental health are in mental health because they want to help someone, not realizing there's a lot of ways you can help someone other than getting involved in their mental health. But a lot of times people get in this space because of their own traumas, and they feel an obligation to give back. I work in multiple offices with people that, you know, can be the biggest enablers, nurturers, you know, lack accountability. And I only say that just because we're talking about using the example of ADD, you know, or any label. Because with you, this is what I find interesting. I don't know. Like I can hear you say that you maybe ADHD. I get it. I hear you say it, but you got so much going on. You've been so successful in being able to self-manage yourself. I almost feel like it's like a part of your person. I feel like it's almost like a cover-up. Like you can use that. It sounds good, but I want to, like, because I forget when we talked on the phone last week, you described yourself in a way. I forget the word you used. It was something in regard to being introverted. I don't know. Or isolated. What did you say?
Oh gosh, that's a tough one.
You described yourself in a way. I don't remember the exact term that you used, but the way you described yourself, it may have been talking about going into 2025. I don't know. I don't know what you said, but the perception I got from it was that you was an introverted person. Would you agree?
No, I'm actually very extroverted. My wife is introverted.
Okay.
I think we might have been talking about just how different people present, and my wife presents as extroverted when she's in groups, but we know each other very well. And but I also do. Maybe what I was also talking about is there are times that I don't post online for a week at a time because I'm emotionally exhausted, or I just I've spent my time in other places and didn't.
Yeah, I may have read it all wrong, because I was thinking, like, I walked away with this opinion thinking that this guy's portraying to be introverted, but like, how can he be? I don't.
Yeah, not introverted. I mean, I think when it comes to attention deficit disorder, I did actually go to the doctor and get prescribed some medicine at one point. I didn't like the medicine. My wife didn't like my affect when I was on it, and it didn't work that well anyway. But I think that, the point would be is, as we evaluate candidates, one of the things that we'll sometimes look at is like, hey, how much are these candidates like Will? And my wife works in the business with me, and she's like, there's only room for one Will. We need people who can get things done.
Oh, she works in the business with you?
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. Now when we moved to Virginia, she joined up with me, and she was going to pursue a winemaking career, but the pandemic kind of got in the way of that partly, but also the business has just been in demand, so it's consumed us.
Business is doing good.
Yeah. I mean, I think that the pandemic has been challenging. To grow a business in challenging times. You've got employees that you've got to nurture and make sure that they're okay. You've got clients that are going through transitions. I mean, we're still seeing a lot of change in the business landscape. People are selling their businesses. People are buying businesses. The private equity market is crazy right now. So it goes back to choosing to have an abundance mindset. I think that right now is a perfect time for people to look around at the world and say, how do I get out of this world what I need, what my family needs, and then how do I, take that to give back and make the world a better place.
Do you have a future in politics?
No.
You sure?
Not if I want to be married. My future in politics is going to be on the communications side. I'm not going to be a candidate. I've thought about this. I did explore a run for State House when I lived in Connecticut, and I talked to some folks and got plugged in. We ended up deciding to move before that would ever become a reality. But the thing that I decided when I explored that was, you represent the people when you're elected. And to do that, you have to give up some of your autonomy, some of your life. I've been an operator, owner-operator for 20 years. I've been my own boss that entire time. I don't think I could give that up. I don't think I can give up the freedom that I've worked so hard to get to be required to give it back to the people. I don't mind giving myself to people and giving myself to the community. I actually enjoy it. But I don't. I enjoy it because I don't have to. Because I'm not paid to do it. Because nobody said this is your job.
Yeah.
I do it because I want to, and because it allows me to explore what works.
Got it. You're the chairman over at Housing Families First. For those who are listening who may not be familiar, Housing Families First is a local nonprofit here in the city of Richmond that works to address some of the housing issues that we have as it pertains to affordable housing. I know there's a few different services and programs that they do. I don't know if they do rapid rehousing and permanent supportive housing, shelters. Very familiar with their executive director, Beth. What's Beth's last name?
Van Turnbull.
Say it again.
Van Turnbull.
Ben Turnbull. Yeah, she was actually very supportive and helpful for me when I did some work in that space. As the chairman of the board, and just with your work here in housing, can you talk a little bit about some of the things that you guys are doing right now?
Yeah. So we just, now it's been a couple of years, I guess, but we completed an expansion of the facility. We lease a building from Henrico County near the Henrico County complex on 9 Mile Road, and it needed some efficiency improvements. We had some changes that we needed to make the building more secure. We wanted to add some playground space and a basketball court. Really make it a place for families to call home while they're there. So we raised, I would say, about $4.4 million over the course of a few years. $2.5 million came from Bezos Day One Fund. You can imagine which Bezos that was.
Yeah.
And that was great because they gave us money saying, do what you need to do with it. They didn't, expect us to follow their rules necessarily. So we took that money, we raised the rest through the community, and we were able to do that expansion. Now that the expansion's done, we're actually going into our 25th year next year.
Congratulations.
Thank you. So my job is pretty easy. The organization is very well run. You mentioned Beth. She's I don't know how long she's been there now. She preceded my time on the board. We met in Leadership Metro Richmond Quest class of 2020. And we're well funded. We still have to raise money because the need for us to expand is growing.
Yeah.
The housing crisis is not it's not getting better, unfortunately. No. And so we have to continue to push. Our most recent evolution is I don't know exactly where they're located, but we did a master lease on several units that we're now able to place tenants in who are moving through our shelter and need that permanent place to live. I suspect that we'll see more of that sort of thing as we move into the future. We're exploring partnerships with other organizations to figure out how we can make a dent in this dearth of affordable housing in the region. It is 44,000 units that we're short of just total units, and a big portion of that is affordable units. So there's a lot of work to do.
That's everything. I don't think people understand that when people talk about the housing issue, they're not realizing how many people are sleeping on someone else's couch. They often think that it's just the people who's panhandling or sleeping under a bridge. And quite frankly, a lot of those individuals may not be homeless. Sometimes, and this is fact when I'm sharing with you guys, because I work in this community, in this space. I can go outside on any given day and go up and down Broad Street and see about 10, 15, maybe even 20 individuals that I personally know that are living in assisted living facilities. They're using their life skills to go about life. Just to understand what assisted living is, assisted living how it's funded. In the city of Richmond, you get about roughly speaking, $1,200 or so from an auxiliary grant. You get your SSI, and that's so you got $2,500 that's pretty much taking care of the room and board. After that, these individuals have maybe $50-$60. That's their allowance that they have to live by. And so when you've been homeless, even though you may have a home that's assisting you with housing, when you've been homeless for such a significant part of your life and you're not able to be employable, people are in need of help, and that's just the reality of what we have here in the city of Richmond. We have a lot of people who are in need of help, but I will say credit to the city of Richmond is that and to the people that live in Richmond, if you want to serve and if you want to help people, this is a great place to be, because this is a service-oriented area. And that's part of the reason why I've been here for the past 20 years, just working in the mental health field. When I got out of college, I realized, like, if you want to help people, this is the work is here to be done.
Well, I think it's important to know and to discern between chronic homelessness and homelessness, because there is a big difference.
Yeah.
And what most people see when they see panhandlers, when they see people under the bridge, like you said, sometimes they're not homeless, and sometimes that's chronic homelessness.
Yeah. Sometimes they're not, sometimes they are. Yeah.
There's a lot of people who find themselves in dire straits for a moment in their life.
Oh, yeah.
It is not long term, and I think that we fail to see that. Income and wealth is transient. Wealthy people don't always stay wealthy, and poor people don't always stay poor.
Yep.
And so that was something that I learned in 2020, and why I couldn't see it myself before. You just kind of think, oh, homeless person, poor person, always poor.
Yeah.
Even though I wasn't poor anymore, and I was poor when I was growing up. So I think that the good news is that we have supports. We got 34 organizations in Greater Richmond that serve the homeless and housing needs of our community. And they all do different things. Some people serve veterans, some people serve women with children, some people serve families, some people serve single men. There's all kinds of different things. Permanent supportive housing, people who have physical challenges, mental challenges. So there's a lot of parts to it, but it's still not enough. There's a lot of work to be done, and I hope both through Housing Families First and through some of the other ideas that I want to bring to fore, we can move the needle in a much more significant way, so that we're not 44,000 units short, building 5,000 a year, and saying, we're throwing some money at it, we're starting some new programs, and everything's going to be fine. Yeah. It's not.
For sure. Now, we'll segue here, and we're going to wrap up here shortly. God, I could talk to you all day, but we want to get over to the to one of the water spots so we can see how this is done. But with your nonprofit, and so Richmond Water is a nonprofit.
No, actually it's not.
So, excuse me, Housing Family First is a nonprofit that is there a partnership? Explain the connection between Richmond Water and Housing Families First, because there's a lot of people out there want to know that this bottle's $5.
Yes.
Okay, but we want people to know why it's $5.
Yes.
Because it's part of the proceeds is going to a good cause, if I'm understanding, and part of that is Housing Families First.
Well, look, there's a lot of murkiness in my various brands, and maybe there's a lesson in that for me. But Xponent21 is the company that I run, and is sort of the place where we can play and do things. So Richmond Water is not yet a separate entity. We do anticipate spinning that off and making it its own company rather soon. But part of it is, I believe that it doesn't take nonprofits to solve the world's problems. You don't need to be a tax-free entity to go out and solve big challenges. And I believe that we shouldn't be a society where businesses get to go make all the money and not be accountable, and it's up to the nonprofits to fix the problems that they create. It's up to businesses to solve the problems and make a profit for solving those problems. And so that's the way we see Richmond Water. It's high priced, but we don't make very much money on it. We give money to Hamilton Glass, our artist. We give money to Noah Scalin, our font designer, another local artist. We donate 50 cents to Mending Walls, which is a local nonprofit that Hamilton Glass runs. The tie-in for Xponent21.
I want to make sure I heard all that. I want you to say all that again, because I know my listeners. Y'all need to hear that, because I want them to go support this brand. Yeah. But I want them to understand why it costs $5.
Okay, so let me start at the top.
Half the money's already gone.
Well, let me start at the top. So first and foremost, the bottle is durable aluminum, so you can give it a squeeze. It's gonna hold up. It's got a screw top on it, so you can refill it many times.
Tastes good, by the way.
It's good water. The water comes from Hanover County, so it's about 20 minutes up the road. A private owner has a well 440 feet underground, so it's impermeable to groundwater. They filter it 4 ways, no chemicals. And what I'm really excited about this is not only is it very minimal CO2 emissions to bring this product to Richmond, the facility that it's bottled in is 100% solar powered. So from a environmental impact perspective, really the bottle manufacturers are big emissions factor. Now, the other thing that I like about that is if you compare that to, say, a single-use aluminum bottle or can, that's going to get recycled after one use. Well, every time you recycle something like this, you're creating CO2 emissions. And so by creating a refillable product, we're able to reduce the volume of emissions that happen. Now, for the consumer who's going to the store and buying a $1.50, $2 bottle of water, this product is going to save you money after 3 refills. So it's not that hard of a bridge to get people there, but it's local water, it's local artists. We're supporting the local economy.
I like that.
My business is local. We have local employees. So, part of it is about getting Richmond to believe that something is possible that's different, right?
Yeah. You're right. Because y'all would have drawn 3 deer parks. Y'all would have paid more than $5, and you can refill this 3 times. And
we don't know what the impact of micro and nanoplastics are in our body. And every single plastic bottle of water has 200,000, maybe more, nanoplastics. They've been able to measure that in the last 12 months. We just don't know what it does to us yet, and we are taking it for granted because it's probably a long-term impact. So, there's other factors to this. We'll rotate the art. This is a limited edition bottle. We'll make 25,000 with Hamilton Glasses artwork on it, and then we'll switch to Matt Lively. Our customers got to vote on him as our second artist.
So you already know the next one coming. Okay.
Yeah, we don't yet know who the next nonprofit's going to be, but we have some ideas about who that will be. We've got some other evolutions. We're going to work on some durable bottles so that we can run more artists and work with more partners that are interested in sustainability and refilling. So, we have a lot of work to do to envision, to live out this vision that
I think it's super cool.
We can be more sustainable when it comes to drinking water. There's so much emissions that's wasted, not just on water, but liquid that travels in trucks across the United States, from laundry detergents to soaps to all kinds of household goods, food products that we buy. I mean, the liquid is there for us, right here in the city. Yeah. It needs to be clean, it needs to be filtered. We want to make sure that it's quality. But this is a bridge for people who are still leaving the house without a bottle and grabbing that plastic off the shelf.
I think it's super cool. Super cool. Kudos to you for doing that. And I understand better now, because me and Casey talking about, man, $5. But again, you're not really making a lot of money off the water. I mean, the artists, obviously, there's so many people that got to get paid in this project. And I think the most important thing about it is that the money is going toward a good cause. So,
I think for me, that's definitely
and you're promoting healthy.
Yes,
you're promoting a healthy lifestyle from drinking water altogether, but you're actually thinking about like everything that water what we drink water out of.
Well, I think with this, the most important thing that I had to do in order to win at my vision is to get Richmond to fall in love. And one of the most rewarding things for me has been running into people, a year after they've bought a bottle from me, and they open up their bag and they pull out their Richmond water bottle, and it's dented and dinged and probably leaking at that point. Yeah. But they are just so happy to still have it when they see me. Yeah. And they are proud of themselves for making the switch. I mean, I ain't gonna lie. I was interested just based off what it looked like. I was like, it looks good. It brought me in off that, and I've got Hamilton Glasses, just a phenomenal visual artist, and I think his work is very familiar to people in Richmond because we see it everywhere. Yeah. I've got to give a big shout out to Nikki Peters, my creative director, because she put really everything else together on the bottle design. So everything below the half is her. The brand itself is her, and so 3 great artists came together to make this happen, and I think I'm just the vessel that saw the vision and brought it to life. Cool, man, super cool, man. But we're getting ready to head over to Hardywood, I believe, and we're going to check out one of these refill stations. Before we do, thanks for coming on the show. We really appreciate it, and look forward to following and continuing to see where you go. You haven't been in Richmond that long, if I'm correct, right? So I moved here in 17, so 7 years now. 7 years. You've made a pretty strong impact in a considerable short amount of time. I mean, I was at a regional senior network event before I came over here. I was talking to my good friend Deborah Willis. I said, Deborah, I got a podcast today with Will Melton. You familiar with him? She said, oh, of course I'm familiar with him. I was talking to Mike Keeney the other day because he's going to be our next guest on the show. He was talking about some of the things we got going on. I said, you know Will Melton? Yeah, I know Will Melton. So like your name's popping up in all conversations, and
it's something to be said for that, particularly when you're doing positive things and making an impact on the city. So I salute you. I'm proud of you. I'm proud to see anyone who's doing successful things and just leading in a positive way. And I know there's some big things coming for you in 2025. I'm not going to say what they are. I'm sure there's other places and other times for that to happen. Yeah. But I'm really excited just to continue to monitor your journey. And you guys should be as well. Typically, before we close shows, we like to ask some random impulsive questions without a lot of thought, okay?
Let's do it.
There's nothing. It's just going to be 5-7 quick questions, just quick answers, kind of, and then we'll close. Who was your celebrity childhood crush as a young man? You're a young man still, but as a kid growing up, who was your celebrity childhood crush?
You get me in trouble with this one. I honestly can't remember if it was Jessica Alba or Jessica Biel.
Either one. You're a winner with either one of them. You're a sports fan?
Not until I became an adult.
Really? So who's your team? What's your team? Who is your teams?
Richmond Squirrels, Richmond Flying Squirrels.
Oh my goodness, man, he is a Richmonder. I hate baseball.
I didn't like sports until I moved to Richmond.
Really? But so you like baseball?
So I like sitting at a game. I cannot watch sports on television. It's not something that I have the patience for. My brain wants to do business. Maybe you're ADD. Stuff. So, but there's something about being at a game. The kickers too. I mean, the energy that they bring. And a lot of people. There's a lot of cross pollination there. But as a marketer, sports is a great place to captivate an audience. Yeah. And so when you talk about, the kickers, for instance, 5,000 to 6,000, 7,000 people a game, what can you do with that as a marketer? That's exciting for me. And so I didn't mention it earlier, but the partnership that I have with Housing Families First is through Xponent21 and the Squirrels. Okay. So every time there's an extra base hit at the Squirrels, we donate money to Housing Families First. That's cool. We both get some PA play and some on-screen play. That's cool. And it's a way for them to get visibility and to raise some money, and it's a way for us to show the world that we're not just marketing ourselves, but we're trying to do some good things. That's good. I know you told me you were exercising. So you have like an exercise routine or regimen that you're in right now? So I am not a rules person, so I don't follow many routines. But if I go to the gym, it's going to be 6 o'clock in the morning. Usually Monday, Wednesday, Friday if I go. Almost always Monday because that's a good way to start the week. But yeah, no, it's an hour. It's intensive. It's hard work, but I tell you what, I feel great when I leave there, and I wish I could find the motivation to go every single morning, or had the time to go every single morning, because it really is. It's powerful. Do you have any type of what about nutrition and diet? Like, do you have any type of plan there, or no? You just eat what you eat? My wife has a more strict diet. I wouldn't say strict diet, but she has some dietary limitations. So we eat a lot of whole foods at home. Because of that, I tend to indulge a little bit more on the going out to eat front. So I'm probably not the best, but I will say as a result of being around my wife, I end up eating a lot healthier than most people do. Okay. As we close in 2024, what's one thing about this year with 2024 in the city of Richmond that you're really proud of? If I had to say one thing, it is that we are finally moving past our stuckness. There was a belief system when I moved here that Richmond couldn't deliver on its promises, or that the good things that we thought about were not going to happen. And that attitude, unfortunately, led to us losing a lot of opportunities that should have materialized. And you can talk about them, negative, positive, however you want to, but development and growth is something that's good for our city. So long as it's taken into account how it impacts everybody else. So I would say that, from a belief system standpoint, I think we believe in ourselves now more than ever. And that is absolutely the precursor to everything that's to come. Finish this sentence. In 2025, you expect to blow the top off this thing. Good. Last question. If there was someone that is there someone that you would like to see in your seat in the future episode of the Randy Wilson podcast? And if so, who and why? That's a funny question, because I asked my guests that on my show. Oh, really? And it's the hardest question, so I always prepare them ahead of time. That's a good question. Let me think on that. I really, there's so many people that I interact with. Here's one name I'll give you, because I like the up and comers. Have you met Miles Hopkins?
No, I don't think
Miles
so.
works for City of Richmond for City Council, and he is currently responsible for rolling out the Richmond People's Budget.
Okay.
Are you familiar with the Richmond People's Budget? $3 million.
Yes, I am.
That we all get to weigh in on how it gets spent.
M-Y, M-I.
M-I.
Miles, what's his last name? Hopkins?
Hopkins, yeah. He's a young guy, but he is creative. He's driven. He's smart. He's a strategic guy. And I'm really looking forward to seeing what he does, because the energy he brings is infectious. I think he's, and I just recently met him, so maybe it's because he's top of mind. But I'm really looking forward to seeing where he goes.
No, that's cool. I see him here now on LinkedIn. For those, and I mean, but that's good. It's good that you mentioned, like, we gotta speak things. We gotta put names out there. We gotta bring attention and awareness to people who are being change makers in their respective industries, because sometimes, and this is not just in Richmond, it's going to be in a lot of places, but sometimes people just get familiar and accustomed to the same old people, the same old, and quite frankly, that can be tiresome and boring.
I just hope that that's not me one day. People thinking that when they hear my name.
I hope it's not me either. You mentioned, as we close, you mentioned one thing in our conversation. You said Richmond's hard. You said, like, I don't know if it was like to break an idea or something, but it seems like has it been hard for you? Because it looks like you've done well and you've lived in other places too. Yeah. Like, I think Newport News is hard.
Well, Williamsburg was hard. So I'll contrast a few places that I've lived. So Williamsburg, I tell people, if New York's a city that never sleeps, Williamsburg is the town that never wakes up. Yeah. Everybody there is ingrained in relationships already, and this has probably changed since I lived there, but ingrained in relationships, and they network with one another, and they're very hospitable. But when it comes to doing deals and getting work done, they'll say, "Oh yeah, I'm interested," and string you along, and nothing ever happens. Now, granted, I was a younger guy back then, and maybe that had something to do with it. But it's a bit of an old boys town.
Old town, old money.
Connecticut, I moved there. I'd be networking, and somebody said, "I'm interested in what you have to do. Let's get together and meet." And we'd meet, and at the end of the meeting, they'd say, "I'm not interested. Thanks." And I'd be happy with that, because I'm not wasting time trying to chase somebody down who says that they're interested, but they really don't want to spend the money. So, obviously, the hospitality was lacking there. You come to Richmond and it's a little bit of both, right? People want to get business done here. They want to be engaged in productive relationships. But a lot of the decisions that are made in this community are made by some people who have had a lock on decision making for decades. And I'm not saying that those people haven't done good things, and I'm not saying that those decisions weren't good for Richmond. But what you said is true. Some of these names come up over and over and over and over again, and we forget to look for those other names, the people who have the energy and the dedication, but haven't gotten there yet. Yeah. And I'm of the belief, and this kind of goes, you could look back to politics. We're kind of at this point where some old guard needs to get off. Oh, for sure. And we need to hand the baton over to some of us people who know how to use AI, who understand the implications of society from today. I'm not shameful about saying that, and I think that some people who are probably at risk of getting their car keys taken away really need to take stock of their position in life and in our society. We have a lot of great leaders out there that need to be elevated and empowered. And that doesn't happen if we don't elevate them first and set expectations for how they can lead. Yeah, Casey and I were just talking about that before. We was talking about, our opinion, like, with the mayor, or with all the elections, quite frankly, like, the same question I kind of led with, starting with you. Like, I'm not surprised by anything that's happened, because I think that, and I'll just use the national election as an example, because I think, when people get used to a certain way of things, they get accustomed to it, they want to see something different. And even if different's not better, different is different, and sometimes people just want different and new. And I think here in the city of Richmond, we're going through that for sure. I think we saw it with the city council a little bit. Obviously, we've seen it with the school board, and there's going to be more to come with it, quite frankly. So our troubles aren't over, I promise. Oh no, man! This is it's just a new day, and we're approaching a new year.
But Will, it's been a pleasure to have you on the show. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you, Randy.
This is not just a conversation. This is the beginning of a relationship, as far as I'm concerned, and we'll see where it goes.
I'm looking forward to your 2025 too. I know exciting things are ahead.
Thank you, sir. We appreciate you guys for staying tuned in and locked in for the Randy Wilson podcast. Remember, you can find this podcast everywhere podcasts are played. Next episode, we got Mike King coming up. And after that, we're going to pause on the interviews for a moment, okay? We're going to pause. We're going to close the year up. We're going to have our new co-host come on, and we're going to get focused on some subject matter areas that we hope that you guys are going to find intriguing and you'll share. All right? So we're out.